She was an angel. Fishing and hunting were her favorite activities. She was in her paradise. Alexandria was a light to the world and everything in it. She lived for today, making the most of every moment. She loved animals, nature, and her husband. At only 27 years of age, she had her whole life ahead of her. All the more reason as to why it was such a shame, such a tragedy, when the bear dragged her corpse away. A scene of hell for her husband to discover. A scene of nightmares.
What's up, guys? Iceman here. So this story is one of the most horrifying and harrowing bear attacks that I've covered yet on this channel. But before I get into it, I'd like to thank you guys for all your support. So if you will, like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit the bell so you're notified next time I post a video. And if you want to support me further, you can become a channel member or a patron. Links in the description below. So let's get into this chilling tale.
Alexandria and her husband Daniel loved to spend the springs of their early marriage enjoying nature and the outdoors, specifically shore fishing for walleye on various rivers throughout northern Quebec. The Laurentides Wildlife Reserve is a vast protected area located in the province of Quebec, Canada. It covers an area of approximately 3,000 square miles and is managed by CPAC, which oversees Quebec's network of wildlife reserves. The Laurentides Wildlife Reserve is known for its diverse ecosystems, including forests, lakes, rivers, and wetlands. It provides habitat for various wildlife species, such as moose, black bear, white-tailed deer, beaver, and numerous bird species. The reserve offers opportunities for outdoor activities such as hunting, fishing, camping, hiking, and wildlife observation. Alexandria and Daniel pulled up to the secluded parking area near the Theo River. The sounds of birds and flowing water elevated their moods as they got out to stretch and take in the beautiful array of wildlife and vast forests surrounding them. Walleye are typically found in lakes, reservoirs, and rivers with clean water and moderate vegetation. They prefer areas with rocky or sandy bottoms, submerged structures like drop-offs, and weed beds. The area they had found was perfect for such fish. They had a portable butane grill and skillets, along with a nice fillet knife to get the full outdoors experience that day. An experience that, unfortunately, was never realized. As Alexandria removed her jacket, she noticed a red squirrel chewing on an acorn. The creature seemed to have little fear of the sight of them. Daniel mimicked the sounds the small animals make, and the two broke into laughter. Alexandria's bright smile, coupled with her tiny denim shorts and cropped tank top, filled her husband with joy as they gathered supplies, each their own tackle box of baits and various things, and headed to the riverside with their poles. Alexandria baited her hook and bit her lip as she cast down the river. Her can of bear spray was latched around one of her belt loops by a carabiner. The sound of running water, the sounds of birds. It was a perfect day. About 10 minutes went by, and Daniel noticed Alexandria was not in his sight any longer. She must have walked further down the river, maybe to find a better spot. He allowed a few more minutes to go by and heard nothing from her, so he called out to her with no response. A little agitated, he reeled in his line and began walking down the bank toward where she was fishing. "Alexandria!" he shouted, but again, no response. The grass was tall and weedy. He left his tackle box behind, but still had his rod in hand, as he figured he'd fish nearer to her when he finds her, which shouldn't be far. He noticed how unusually quiet it was, with only the sounds of the river keeping it from utter despair. A looming thought came over him that something could have happened to her. Did she drown? Was she kidnapped? Maybe she was just taking a pee break. Suddenly, he heard some shuffling as he made his way around a bend in the river. He caught a glimpse of her head and upper body, her beautiful hair now acting as a mop on the muddied ground. Her body was moving, no, being dragged by something, leaving behind a trail of blood. "Alexandria!" he yelled as he scrambled toward the body. Tall reeds concealed the large form that still had a grip on Alexandria. "Let her go!" he shouted as he approached, only to see the large head of a black bear gripping the thigh of the lifeless woman. The animal quickly dropped Alexandria's body and snorted and huffed aggressively in Daniel's direction. It took one step forward, straddling the body and standing over its kill protectively. Without stopping to think, Daniel rushed toward the creature, shouting and brandishing the only weapon he had, his fishing rod. Upon seeing his determination, the bear quickly grabbed Alexandria again and tried to run off with her. Daniel raised his rod over his head and swatted at the bear as a last-ditch effort to intimidate or startle the bear, enough to let the young woman go. And it worked, as the bear instantly dropped her and charged toward the man, ears back and head low, with its teeth exposed, ready to kill again. "Get the hell out of here!" he screamed as he swatted it with his pole once more, scathing the creature's face with it like a whip. Still determined to protect the fresh kill, the bear lunged at Daniel, pawing at his leg and taking him down like a wrestler. Daniel kicked and grabbed at the thick hide, pulling matted fur out in clumps as the bear swatted its jaws around his forearm and thrashed. The sharp, bacteria-laden teeth shredded large gashes into Daniel's skin, but the man somehow managed to get to his feet and began swatting the enraged animal in the face as hard as he could with his fishing rod. With one final blow across the bear's face, somehow the monster let go. It huffed as it backed away, head swaying, its body language acting as though another fight wasn't worth its energy, and it left. Daniel, bloodied, fell to his knees at his wife's mangled carcass. He bellowed in horror, with tears running down his face, as he squeezed her upper body to his chest in despair. Minutes passed, and he tried to stand. It was difficult, but he managed. His legs were grossly gouged from the tussle. His arm was bleeding heavily, and he tried to carry the defeated woman back to their vehicle, but failed. It was getting dark, and his wounds were severe. He made the decision to walk back to the vehicle on his own, and he trekked through the tall, sharp weeds as the forest around him continued to darken. He managed to make it to his vehicle and called the police. As they arrived, Daniel was already rushing back to the scene, bent on retrieving his fatally wounded wife's carcass and not giving it up to the creature who took her life. 2 police officers followed, and the bear could be seen in the distance, bluff charging the group, but keeping its range from them. The officers hesitated to shoot it, as it was very dark and thick in the woods, so quite difficult to get in a safe shot, especially if they were able to evade the current threat. So they decided to wait until morning. The scene was horrific. Alexandria's body was ripped apart and decaying, but the bear was nowhere to be seen. A few more searches were conducted over the following days, but the offending bear was never found. Jeez, what a horrifying story. I can't help but imagine what something like that would be like, to see your loved one taken from you so quickly and unexpectedly. Could you imagine losing your spouse in such a way? How devastating that would be, and how would you ever trust anything again, knowing that it could be taken from you so quickly and so violently? This is another scenario where the victim actually did have bear spray on their person, but it seems that the black bear stalked her and took her before she could react. I've heard of a similar situation like this that had to do with children, and to my understanding, a couple of them died. It was a bear acting similarly, where it would see them on the shoreline of a river and creeped up on them from behind and violently attacked at the last moment. I can't imagine how her husband must have felt, all the what ifs and what could have been done differently. Why was I not paying more attention? How did she get out of my sight? Those regrets, I'm sure, would be very hard to deal with, and my heart goes out to him. But what do you think could have been done differently in this situation? What could have been done differently to prevent Alexandria's death? After making many of these videos, I've realized how opportunistic black bears are. And even though they can be quite shy and startled by humans, if the situation arises where they could potentially get an easy meal, it seems like in many instances they could very well take that opportunity. So it's really important to not underestimate any of these animals and to treat them with respect and caution. Personally, I'd probably be carrying a hand cannon in one pocket and a nice folding shank in the other. That way I'd have two options if taken to the ground by surprise. But what would you do? Let me know in the comments below, and like this video if you will, and stay tuned for more chilling tales from the Iceman.